Hello everyone, and welcome back to Gregtech New Horizons. Where's our controller went? Well, I have rebuilt this between episodes in an attempt to try to fix our AE issues that we were having. After rebuilding the controller though, it changed nothing, and nothing was fixed. However, after adding these admin anchors, which I did have to cheat in, full disclosure here, but yeah, these are basically only chunk loaders. These only load the chunks around them in a 3x3. This actually seems to have fixed all the blinking issues that we were having, so I'm really happy about that. So first of all, some changes between episodes. I've got Breeks working here on some more berry seeds. We also now have this farming station farm from Ender.io. We got an unbreakable vanadium steel lumber axe. This is still an original lumber axe actually. Just added some obsidian to make it unbreakable. And we now have more logs than we know what to do with, which is great. I've also filled out some of these thaumium seeds that we were working on last episode, along with the solar panel. Although the extra thaumium farm out over there demanded some extra fertilizer to be able to run. So over at our distillation tower here, I have once again upgraded these machines to EV tier, and I've done some rewiring under here just to separate out some of the cables, so that we could overclock the pyrolyzed oven and the distillation tower over there, which gives us our fertilizer. So hopefully that should fill buffers, and one more change over at ore processing is I've added another centrifuge here, along with the same buffer chest setup so that we can manage the dust that require specific amounts. So for example, we filter in multiples of 64 here, that gets sent to the chest, and then from the chest into the input bus of the centrifuge. And we also have some space down here for liquids. Mainly I set this up actually to get hydrogen, although we do also get some oxygen which will eventually void. We have so much oxygen by now. And we get helium from endstone dust. The main reason we needed hydrogen is for hydrochloric acid here. Although as you can see, we are not keeping up with the chlorine. We do have plenty of chlorine. The issue actually is the throughput on this conduit right here. There is actually different tiers of conduits which will give more throughput. But honestly I think we just add another P2P right here, specifically dedicated for this LCR. There we go, it's more or less running constantly now, which is what we want to see. So, over the last few episodes, we've been doing some infrastructure upgrades, as well as some robust resource collection and processing. And today we're going to be working on Naquadah, which is this intimidating questline looking thing here. Lots and lots of quests, and lots of fluids, most of which we're probably not going to be able to pronounce. So the first thing, why do we need Naquadah? Well, we need Naquadah in order to get the fusion reactor, and we need fusion for more power, and also to get the next tier of rocket, which will then unlock us ZPM tier. There is one very slight problem in our plan right here, and that is the game is bugged, again. No, it was just a small oversight I think on the devs part. So if we look at one of the recipes here for like almost the end of the Naquadah line, to get this Naquadah rich solution we need the neutron activator, and to craft the neutron activator we need to have the precise assembler from Good Generator, and to make this we need an adamantium alloy gear, among other things which we're not going to look at right now. The only way to get adamantium though is to get adamantium dust, which comes from tier 6 planets. Yeah, it looks like Triton and Proteus is the first available place we can get this. And as I just mentioned, we need Naquadah to get fusion to get tier 6. In fact, this is only tier 5 right here, so that's a bit of an impossible recipe right there. So there may be a fix we can implement today. I'm not sure. I'm still trying to work on updating the mods. But I mean, we have a lot of steps before we need this neutron activator up here. So we need a plan. I think it's very important when you're laying out setups like this to actually plan it out before you start doing anything. That includes things like your power infrastructure and P2P connections, or applied energistics. So the general rule I like to keep is to have these main paths, basically central walkways for the main backbone P2P channels, as well as the main power spine. And we want to keep these as free as possible, and then transform off of these main lines. So we are just below these distillation towers here. I've moved this P2P, which used to run along this cable right here, and this will run along all the way over to the other end, and this is where we're going to put our Naquadah line. I decided to put it here and not next to the platinum, just because of pollution. So we are like, what, 4 chunks away from the farm, which should be enough, and we can add the air scrubbers if we need it. I just think that if we expand that way, it's going to be a little bit too close. It's a bit too close for comfort. So yeah, I guess the way we've got this set up, we're going to have power on that side and P2P connections on this side. Place a P2P right here. I also took the opportunity to expand out our controller between episodes when I rebuilt this thing. So I think it was 5x5 before, and now it's 7x7. And of course we can expand this vertically as well. I've also went back to the design I put in other packs where I placed the P2P directly on the controller. I know some people prefer to do a dense cable in between, which is how we had the old setup, but I don't know, I think it looks a bit cleaner like that. So there is one more step in this planning phase, and that is to lay out where all the machines are going to go. It took me a few tries, and I've also went ahead and labelled everything. So the total material list for this is 7 LCRs, 2 distillation towers, 2 EBFs, and 1 centrifuge, which potentially has to be in a PA. Before we get stuck into crafting a ton of multi-blocks and chemicals though, I think we're going to take another little space trip. So when we visited our first tier 4 last episode, we left out one of the miners, and we still have it sitting here in the chest, which is pretty inefficient actually, not something we should be doing. And you may remember also I was concerned about fuel when we first crafted this rocket. Well, I added this LCR I think 2 episodes ago by now. I don't think I mentioned it last time. But this just has a bunch of input hatches that we can input to manually. And I went all the way up the chain and crafted over 200 buckets of LMP, which is effectively 200 launches. So our destination today is Mercury, and I would like to get that to fill up this LCR to get this thing producing again. This machine is producing us indium, which we are going to need, if you remember, for all of these superconductors at LUV. A few of you guys were asking why we don't launch from the Void World, and while that is possible, I think, the tier 4 rocket produces 800 pollution per second when ignited, and I think that also counts the 20-second mandatory cooldown for these things, so I would just rather not deal with that in the base. In fact, when we landed before, we had a bunch of smog in this area, in the overworld. So we're headed to the planet closest to the sun, Mercury. Oh, you know what? I didn't actually check if this takes the other spacesuit. I hope it doesn't, otherwise we're dead. I think we seem to be okay though, right? Yeah, we're safe. We have to keep an eye on... Oh yeah, that's the sun right there. We need to keep an eye on our oxygen, which you can see in the top left. But yeah, other than that, we're fine. This also gives us a chance to use my new favourite item in the game, the Prospector Scanner. And we got... Oh, we got Naquadah here as well. Oh, that is nice. Okay, wait, hold on. Maybe we can get a better vein than this. We're after bauxite for the aluminium. Alright, after some searching around, I think I found the perfect spot here for our miner again. Look at this, double Naquadah, 1 iridium, a diamond, which we're kinda running low on. I mean, not really, but we can always do with some more diamonds. And we got double bauxite here. This is perfect. Plus draconium. Exquisite. Is it working? Ah, it's working. Nice. Well, I think I've procrastinated for as long as I possibly can at this point. We really just have to get started on this. I was waiting on some of the other ores coming through our ore processing system, and I still haven't seen the plutonium that was supposed to show up from last episode. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't exist. I really don't know what's up with that, honestly. But all 3 miners are actually running here, as you can see by these lights. And it's really nice to see that our ore processing system can keep up, and there isn't items all backed up in these drawers. So yeah, it seems that the overclocks and power transfer upgrades have actually done the trick that we made last episode. So as part of Naquadah, I've started to smell up a lot of this HSSG, as well as some Naquadah oxide mixture, which is the only way we can get Naquadah right now. This only gives us nuggets though for every 2 dust, so it's super inefficient. We want to get away from using this recipe. I just know that we will need at least a tiny bit of Naquadah to finish off this processing chain. And we need HSSG for these blast furnaces that are going to sit here. I think technically we can get away with lower tier coils, but we may as well go up for HSSG. Alright, so it looks like the large chemical reactors have finished. We need, what was it, 2 distillation towers? We don't have a recipe for that. Let's add one actually. And we're completely out of circuits as well. Maybe we need to do something about our crafting speed of circuits. Alright, let me grab some more of these materials. I mean, crafting everything at this point isn't really a big issue for us. We have auto crafting for everything. It's really putting it all together that's the challenging part, and also the fun part. So the first step in this process is going to be 2 chemical reactors. And when I was doing all the labeling, I do also like to include the number of fluid inputs, item inputs, and outputs, as well as any circuit numbers. Although I should remember to actually also include the minimum energy tier. It looks like for here we're good with LV, but not all recipes in this chain are LV. I think I saw some even at IV in this. So you're going to need a P2P channel for fluids, as well as a couple of interfaces to pull some items from our system. Not all of this, as you can imagine, is all closed loop. We do need to pull resources from elsewhere in the base. So the second quest in this chain, we're going to come back to this ether. The second one which we are going to do here is antimony trichloride, which is chlorine, antimony, and ether. And I've also started keeping cells in our AE system so that we can filter. I don't believe you can pull from NEI in this version. So insert chlorine on brown. This should already start filling up from the fluid P2P. Interface will place below, and we set a filter for the input bus underneath. We need to give all of these machines power, but I think we're going to do power last. So to get the last input fluid, the ether, we have to do this step manually the first time. We're going to need some sulfuric acid and also ethanol, which should be somewhere here in these distillation towers. Ethanol, right? Yeah, ethanol. Am I going crazy, or do we not produce do we not produce ethanol? Yeah, we do produce ethanol right here. And this chemical reactor actually that we use for rocket fuel is the perfect use case for this. This needs circuit number 2. And yeah, this gives us our ether cells, which further down the line in Naquadah is fully recyclable. I think it's up here somewhere that we get it all back and we can recycle it back to the first step in this process. So yeah, this ether we filter in the second input bus of the first LCR. So that's the first fluid taken care of. I think the second one we just have to add some more chlorine to this existing fluid, which takes it from antimony trichloride to antimony pentachloride. The next step is a distillation tower, which is actually where we get all of our ether back here. I didn't realise it was this soon, I thought it was further down the line, but yeah, distillation tower. This DT is a little baby one here. It's a little tricky though since we don't have the input fluids, since we don't have power hooked up to these first ones. Maybe we should think about power right now. Anyways, the next step after this is 2 more LCRs. I'm getting to be quite efficient at setting up these LCRs now. I do like them though, they're really nice machines. Oh, that's right, we do have one more over here for hydrofluoric acid. Technically counts as its own little fluid. This is also used elsewhere. It's just that we don't have any production set up yet for it. I don't think we've yet actually used it yet, but it is used in a bunch of other places. This LCR here we can actually filter at the moment. Hydrofluoric acid is just hydrogen and fluorine. I mean, I say just, but we have been struggling with hydrogen basically the whole game. Which is the whole reason I actually buffed our methane setup at the start of this episode. It looks like it is now backed up, which is a really nice sign. Methane we use to make hydrogen directly, along with water, so basically if we have methane, we have hydrogen. As for the fluorine though, we are getting this from ore processing, mainly from this electrolyzer, and I think it's actually capped when I came to check this thing. Maybe not, we've just under 3,000 buckets. And I think one of these tanks is also full as well, right? Yeah, this one here. Fluorine is something that we may have to buff. Oh, I should have picked up cells for this. But fluorine we can get from biotite, which can come from one of the crops that we're growing. So it's really just a matter of crossbreeding some more of those. After checking the energy requirements just for this line here, the maximum that we need is EV for this LCR, and the rest can be done at HV or below. So I think what we'll do is we'll have 4 EV energy hatches, which we can order, perfect, and 2 IVs. I'm hoping we can get this as well, nice. So we'll extend along the vanadium gallium. This line here is LUV. Green cable is all LUV. If I was to make a prediction right now, we're going to have to buff our power supply after we add this Naquadah line, especially some of the later tier machines which take the IV power. Although I do have some ideas which is going to incorporate some of the things we worked on last episode. So we'll need a transformer LUV to IV and another one IV to EV. We're missing a cable. That should have formed the multi-block. It looks like it has. Awesome. And now we just pray for no explosions. I hope there's no explosions. Alright, so after we pick up some tape for all of these things, we do some maintenance on all of these hatches. It should mean that we can start to run some of these machines and get the fluid moving. Last steps is the fluid detector covers and machine controllers, just so that we don't end up voiding any fluids. Oh, that is the first quest. Alright, so we got the double EBFs in place here. This is the next step in the process after fluoroantimonic acid. And the acid we combine with Naquadah oxide mixture. This is what we get from Naquadah ore from our miners. And this thing will output titanium trifluoride along with Naquadah emulsion. The Naquadah emulsion is what we process further on this centrifuge step. And the titanium trifluoride we combine with hydrochloric acid. No, we don't. We combine with hydrogen. And this thing actually just gives us straight up titanium. Yeah, we just get a hot ingot of titanium out of this, which is really nice. It only smelts in 6 seconds as well. Plus, we get some of the hydrofluoric acid back. I don't think we get all of it, but yeah, that's what we're making in this LCR, so some of it is recycled. Before we continue with the last few machines though, I noticed, I was taking a look further down the line, one of these quests here for P507. P507 is also something that we can fully recycle at the end of the processing line, although we do need to make some of it to begin with. And to get this we need ethanol, sodium, phosphoric acid, these 3 are easy, plus 2 ethyl 1-hexanol, which comes from seed oil, hydrogen and copper. And seed oil is a problem right now because we have 0 seeds, as far as I'm aware. Right, there's not actually anything here that can be classed as a seed, and therefore used in seed oil. No, I don't think so. So I've stopped breeks here. We have, I think we have enough berries for now. I was mainly doing this since we used the berries for the methane production down there. But that seems to have fixed itself now that we've added some more seeds. I think we're going to get this guy turned back on. And he is going to start breeding some rape seeds for us, which I think is one of the best for seed oil. Oh, we're missing a crop right here. Yeah, I think you have to have in all 4 corners for him to recognise that you actually want to crossbreed. As long as he recognises the target crop that you want, then I think you're fine. He won't actually crossbreed these ones. Oh, I love this little guy. Look at him. Look at him go. He's our little farmer. So yeah, we are almost at the end of this Naquadah line, and almost at the step where we have the uncraftable machine. Still have to figure that out, but yeah, let's finish off this line here. Aha, we are in business, or are we? Yes, things rarely go as smoothly as you first imagine, right? So there's 2 problems with this setup that we have here. After we blast furnace this low quality Naquadah emulsion, this has to be centrifuged with sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide is a dust that we've been using throughout the majority of the game here, and it's actually one of the first setups that we have. I think over here we make sodium hydroxide. Maybe? Is this actually on? Oh, I think it's just capped on hydrogen. I think that's probably what it is here. Yeah, because all of this hydrogen then goes into this tank here, which used to always permanently be empty, but now that we buffed our hydrogen supply, that is no longer the case, and therefore this thing has stopped producing. There is also another drawer of sodium hydroxide here. I believe this was from saltwater electrolysis, but since we no longer reliably do that anymore, we have to change this setup about. But that's not the only problem we run into here. There is one more thing that we need for this chemical reactor here for fluorine-rich waste. So this is a byproduct of the previous chemical reactor, and we definitely want to recycle this. The only thing is this takes quicklime dust. I was having a look at our ME system, and quicklime is not something that we have. It's not a byproduct that we make anywhere. So how do we get quicklime? Well, we can do calcium oxygen, which gives us 2 quicklime dust, and is actually not such a bad deal since we also get calcium back from this waste liquid. But it doesn't make up the difference, it's not like fully recyclable, so we do need a way to also produce quicklime dust. So let's start with the quicklime, and we're going to be adding one more pyrolyzed oven. Not here, I'm looking for some interfaces down here. This guy right here can take a pattern capacity card, and I think it's 66 pyrolyzed oven casings. Oh, that's right, this also takes a set of coil blocks. I don't think we have any coils available that we can use. The recipe that we're going to be running is only HV, so we don't have to go crazy with the coil blocks, but I don't know, maybe we go for tungsten steel? I have been smelling quite a bit of tungsten steel, and we're now getting this from tier 4 planets, so it's, I don't know, something that we have quite a bit of. Although we could do this with some more tungsten ingots. Let's maybe order like a couple hundred extra. That's like 100 seconds each, so that'll take a while. We need a recipe for the pyrolyzed oven. I can't imagine us making too many more of these things, but you never know. I think maybe we will just start this at HV since we have an HV energy hatch already. We've got a spare IV muffler hatch. These things are really expensive, by the way. Those add up really fast. And I think we've got actually a spare space right here. That's going to be perfect. The really nice thing about this pyrolyzed oven is it also actually gives us heavy oil. which then we can distill in this distillation tower and send on to desulfurization, etc. And of course the oil products out of all of these distillation towers we use all over the place. So yeah, this takes some ease off of our burden on having to rely on the multi-block miner. Although I haven't moved that thing in like a week and it's like still full here, so... But yeah, this doesn't actually give us straight quicklime dust. What this actually gives us is ashes. Let's put a few upgrades on these drawers. And I was going to storage bus this, but I want to get away from the storage bus. That we can save for 112 again when we when we eventually play a 112 pack. So instead I've just filtered it back into the interface, which is also taking the wood and inserting it into the top of this. And it looks like the recipe is 8 seconds. 8 seconds each, which honestly I think is going to be fast enough. So with these ashes, we then have to send through the centrifuge, 36 at a time. I was considering putting a centrifuge on site there next to the paralysed oven, but honestly I think we just filter it in this new one that we built, since if we centrifuge ashes it gives us a 64% chance at quicklime, the dust we're after, but then it also gives us all of these other ones which then have to be processed with some of the machines that we have here, so I think it's going to be easier to keep all the outputs on the subnet, and therefore I think we can just add it to this interface here, which will then get buffered in the drawer, and then we need a place for it to go on one of these super buffers. So this has to be exactly 36 ashes in the centrifuge for it to work, and I don't think we have anything capable of 36. So we have a spare super buffer here, I guess we just set this to 36. One click at a time. But think of these like the GTCE robot arms. And then we just set the filter here, ashes on brown channel, which will buffer here, send exactly 36 into the chest, which should then be centrifuge. So let's see how long this takes, the centrifuge. Only 33 seconds, which, I mean, isn't ideal, but it's better than the 300 at LV, since this is running EV, which will probably eventually overclock. Oh yeah, I guess I should also point out, this isn't all from the paralysed one, by the way. We had a couple of thousand ashes in our system. I just wanted a more reliable source of it, since we are infinitely farming logs. But we do also get this from producing steel at tiny piles, so it's not really so reliable, and we don't smelt steel all the time. So that's one fire put out. The next fire is sodium hydroxide. And I don't really know how to deal with this, to be honest. Do we process and away the chemical bath, or... I mean, it's 2.5 seconds at ULV, right? So we can get away with it just going for like EV, and this thing will just spit out sodium hydroxide faster than we can even blink. Oh yeah, we don't even see the items, look at this. Now that is some sodium hydroxide production. So I moved some things around here, and we are now just using a level limiter to control how much sodium hydroxide we produce this way. Since, yeah, we do also get it from salt water, which I realised is also a byproduct of us making epoxy. So this electrolyzer here still has to stay. I'm noticing here though that we are not getting enough water to this chemical bath. I think though we can fix this by upgrading the reservoir into the water reservoir from remote IO, and place a pump on the side of the machine instead. Yeah, that basically caps this out. The only thing is that we're going to eventually overflow on hydrogen, and also chlorine here. We are pretty much maxed out on chlorine, which is going to stop this system and back it up. So we need some sort of a way to void excess. Either that or we just build a massive tank for both of these things. I was thinking of maybe actually centralizing our fluid storage. That actually may not be such a bad idea. That way we can control things and we don't end up voiding excess on things that we actually want to use. I think for now though, we just use another one of these GT++ overflow valves. And we'll put it, I think, on both of these tanks for now. Yeah, so the most important part is we recycle the salt water, and we also keep producing sodium hydroxide. Oh yeah, and just while we were here, I was thinking that we also maybe have to increase the production of nitrogen. I have a feeling this is going to have to be in a PA soon enough. But yeah, first let's finish off this Naquadah line here. If we can. I'm not sure about the last step. Also inventory. Let me... Your inventory fills so fast when you're doing Gregtech. But all of the sodium hydroxide I've filtered in this interface, which is going to go into the centrifuge. This does have a minimum tier of EV, so we're running 4 EV separators, which is being powered by IV power. In fact, I wonder if we can squeeze in any more of these separators in here. Probably not, since it's 1920 EU a tick, which is almost a full amp of EV. So no, I don't think so. I think we're capped here at 4 until we upgrade this to LUV power. But yeah, doing this, as I mentioned, gives us 2 extra dust byproducts as a chance output. We get antimony trioxide, which we can do 2 things with actually. We can send through the blast furnace for 3 antimony ingots, and some of our ashes back actually. But the other option is actually just to electrolyze. We can electrolyze this for 2 dust for every 5. We get some oxygen as well, but this is basically irrelevant. So it's not quite as efficient on the antimony yield, but we don't have a blast furnace set up for this yet. Although, you know what, maybe we should set this up, since we use antimony in the first step of this process, right? Yeah, we use antimony here for antimony trichloride. It's not something we're struggling with at the moment, but I can see us going low on this actually. You know what, let's not be lazy. Let's not create future problems for ourselves. Let's make another blast furnace. Yeah, that's better. Hopefully we shouldn't run out of antimony this way. The only thing is this does give us the ingots rather than the dust, which we use in the first step of the LCR. And look how quick this is as well. That's kind of insane actually. 1 second blast furnace time. Maybe not necessary to have one dedicated for this, but I don't know, it's a bit easier, even with the material costs. We don't ever really have to think about this dust ever again, it's just going to be automatically recycled for us. And there is one more dust that we get out of this PA here for the centrifuge, which is gallium hydroxide. So for this one we actually have 3 options on what we want to do here. We can electrolyze 7-to-1 into gallium. Gallium is very, very useful, it's used in all the circuits. We can chemical react it 1-to-1 for gallium, or we could save it and use it in a mixer for indium gallium phosphide, which I know we're going to need lots and lots of. The only problem is this takes indium phosphate, which we are not producing right now. This comes from Naquadah oxide, which is going to be something in ZPM, so I'm kind of tempted just to leave this as gallium hydroxide dust, so that when we come to use this recipe, we have it available. Our gallium supplies are kind of healthy, we're at like just under 1,000, and we are getting it from bauxite actually, which we just placed our miners on, so I'm kind of tempted just to leave that dust for now. So yeah, that's the centrifuge PA step. Next is the chemical reactors and distillation tower. This is where we need our P50, what was it again? P507? So I wonder how our seed oil here is doing actually. I did stop breeks a little while ago, but I did manage to fill out this half of the farm, which appears not to have been harvested actually. I'm not sure why that is. At least there's no weeds there, but we are up to 2,000 of this rapeseed. Alright, after batching a pretty substantial amount here of P507, we got 24 cells, which isn't actually that much, but the ratios on this are horrible to make this thing. You need so much of the input items. Okay, so this has to go into this LCR down the bottom here. I've put the input hatch on the bottom this time. I think we'll need a fresh P2P channel though, since the other fluid here is for the blast furnaces. We'll keep things simple and just make another one. So obviously right now we're just manually inserting this thing. But we've got the P2P here set up so that we can feed the fluid in whenever we recycle this, which will take place somewhere over here. And that's after the neutron accelerator, so it's not something we can get today, I don't think. Yeah, we're just missing the machine controller on this. It's a 50-second recipe though. And I think this is already running at IV, so yeah, we need to go up to LUV to overclock this. I'm honestly not sure where the bottlenecks are going to be in this system yet. I'm not so familiar with it yet, like I am with the platinum, which I did notice needs some tweaking, but that's going to be for later. Nice, so we get our fluorine-rich waste liquid, and also our Naquadah adamantium solution. Alright, so I set some filters here and managed to get all of these machines running, although I did add this extra redstone control right here. I think there's technically a way to do this without the redstone control, but the way I like to do the machines is redstone on means machine on, and I don't think there's a way to do that without this AND gate, so this just basically ensures that there's nothing in both of these tanks. So even though this one is empty, this one still has fluid in, so the machine will stay off, as we definitely don't want to void any of these fluids here. Remember, the LCR is a very silly machine, and it will void its outputs if the output hatch is full. But yeah, the waste liquid is combined with Quicklime, and this gives us fluorspar dust, which we are just going to send straight back into our ME interface. I think actually we might need some extract speeds on this, because we get this like, I don't know, like 32 at a time? Yeah, 60 at a time actually, so yeah, maybe we should get some extract speeds and probably increase the size of this boss, just so that we don't end up voiding this dust. This is actually quite important, as we can actually electrolyze this 3 at a time if we have any interface slots here. This has to be a multiple of 3, so it goes in this one here. And when we electrolyze this, we actually get our fluorine back. Well, some of it back, not all of it. And we also get the calcium. So the last step for the distillation tower actually gives us 3 very useful fluids here. We get hydrochloric acid, we also get phenol, and we get salt water, which is really, really nice actually. That's some amazing byproducts right there. Plus we get, I think, chrome. But yeah, I think that's as far as we're going to take it today. Let's pick up our quest actually. But yeah, we're now at the point where we need the neutron activator to separate this material, which is not something we can do this episode, so I think we're going to wrap things up here. I noticed here that actually 2 of our miners are finished, so I'm going to move those, I think, after this episode. But we actually made some pretty decent progress through LUV today, which I'm quite happy about. Hopefully we can get this Naquadah sorted for next time. But yeah, I'm feeling re-energized after the little AE2 fix. I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit unmotivated after that. But yeah, that is going to do this for today. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all soon for some more Gregtech New Horizons.